right now you can't do in Canada. It's not the same. Like, their ability to express himself on the internet has been severely limited.
Joe Rogan's recent comments about Canada are so ill-informed, so unbelievably stupid, that it makes me long for tropes about moose, igloos, and mounties. Or, does your head flap when you talk? Thanks, South Park. All of that is better than what you're about to witness. But this is not simply rage bait. I'm going to break down exactly what I suspect he is trying to talk about here, and hopefully inform both Canadians and Americans in the process. First, listen to this trash.
If you can't express yourself and say, hey, this is fucked up, this is crazy, why am I doing this? Like, these studies show that you're not correct. Like, if you can't say all those things, which right now you can't do in Canada, it's not the same. Like, their ability to express himself on the internet has been severely limited. It's real weird, man. It's real weird, and it's happening right. You could walk there. If you wanted to, you could walk there. And it's fucked. It's like it's on the same patch of land as us, and it's fucked. It just shows you what can happen here if you don't have the right laws. Because people like that fuckhead, Justin, they pretend
you guys
that
are on first name basis.
Yeah, that cocksucker. They pretend that they're, and I don't talk this way about anybody.
No, I'm really surprised.
I genuinely despise people like that. And I think it's good to say it publicly because people need to understand like what these people are doing. These people are leading you on the road to legitimate communism. Like he's leading that country on a road to legitimate communism. It's very dangerous. And I think most Canadians are fed up with it at this point. It's just like the party up there has so much control. And he's been forced to resign, so he's got to step down. And just hopefully they don't get some new slick talker to con them into the same old bullshit. Hopefully someone comes along that has like real meaningful change.
All right, first, congratulations for making it through to the other side of that clip, because that is one of the dumbest minutes that I have ever heard in my entire life. Joe Rogan is the dumbest guy with the largest platform. There are people that have, big platforms like he does that say dumb things, but they are propagandists. They often knowingly know what they are doing. Joe Rogan, I think, is just a moron. He has said so himself that he's an idiot. So it's not surprising when he says something stupid. The problem is, because of the size of his platform and the kind of audience that listens to him, people that are typically at this point apolitical or you're already right wing, it has an impact where people actually believe a lot of the shit that he says without citing anything here. So, like, there's a lot to address here. I'm going to get to the meat of what I think he's talking about as it applies to can't express yourself online, which I'm doing a pretty good job of that right now. The only limitations on me are from YouTube and their terms of service, an American company. But besides that, let's get to, first of all, like this idea, this communist leading us to communism. Trudeau has all this control, yet for some reason he allows these flags of these people who have deep desires towards him to fly their flags as long as they want. If we lived in such an authoritarian state, do you think you would be allowed to put, what is this, like 5 F Trudeau flags on your truck? Unbelievable. Now, this gets to the question that I posed on Twitter. I didn't expect some of the responses, but let me show you. Somebody who must be a Joe Rogan viewer replied saying this: "What do you mean? Bill C-187? Are you stupid?" So, I question here, what is this guy talking about? He has shit for brains. Bill 187. Okay, sorry, Bill C-187. I guess I was just not informed about the Federal Divorce Act of 1968. Oh my God. So this guy was likely talking about a different bill, a bill that I will get to, a bill that no longer exists, but Joe Rogan thinks it's already implemented. But we do live in a communist state, We have a means-tested dental plan where you can possibly get some of it covered depending on your income. Like a true communist, means-tested social democracy. Or to be fair, there's also a new pharmacare plan. The communist pharmacare plan that provides universal single-payer coverage for a number of contraceptives and diabetes medications. True communist. I can't take how stupid these people are. If you don't know what communism is, shut the fuck up. Stop using the word, please, because everybody that knows anything can see how goddamn stupid you are. You're making yourself look dumber than you realize. Now, let's get to first. Let's start with the hate speech laws in Canada. So this is something that Rogan has discussed before, but this isn't what he's talking about here. But this leads into the next topic. But this is from Peel Regional Police. They break down how this actually works. So they write here, there is no such thing as a hate crime in the Criminal Code of Canada. There are only 3 offenses in the code that specifically pertain to hate that fall under the hate propaganda section. And they are the advocating for genocide, public incitement of hatred, and willful promotion of hatred. Besides these offenses, there are many other offenses that the public often refer to as hate crimes. However, police refer to these as hate-motivated or bias-motivated crimes. So I'll get to that in a second here. But it is so incredibly rare and so incredibly tough for anybody to actually be sentenced under any of this. So usually where hate-motivated crime comes in is through this. So look, I can go deeper on this, but if try to look up how many people have actually been, convicted under the hate propaganda. It is an incredibly tough thing to do. And, you can argue there are people in Parliament that over the past year have been doing this. But again, none of them charged. So you have to meet like an insane threshold to hit any of this. And I think it's important as well, just as a society, to say, hey, don't be a piece of shit to people based on who they are. I think, I don't know. Personally, I think that's a good thing. Maybe I'm crazy. But this is where hate-motivated crime is usually implemented in practice. So they write here, in order for police to lay a hate-motivated or bias-motivated criminal charge, there are 2 things that must first occur. A criminal offense must have occurred, like an assault, damage to property, uttering threats, etc. And then on top of that, hate or bias toward a victim must have motivated the criminal offense. So because of the victim's race, nationality, ethnic origin, language, color, religion, sex, age, mental or physical disability, sexual orientation, etc. So that's usually what happens, as CBC writes here. That's how the majority of crimes involving racism are prosecuted in Canada, as regular offenses under the criminal code, with bias, prejudice, or hate considered aggravating factors for sentencing. So just so you better understand the actual hate laws in Canada. But this gets to, I just want to show you this as well. So a couple years ago, this is where the most recent data, 2022, there were about 3,500 police reported hate crimes. Not ones that were people actually, convicted over, but just the reported hate crimes. And look at the rise since Trump came in. I mean, that the U.S. has had an incredible impact on Canada and just the freeing a lot of racists up to be their true selves. But a lot of it, as you see here, is based on race or ethnicity. Sexual orientation is the gray there. Red is religion, and sex or gender in the black than other. Now, this gets to not the Divorce Act, but Bill C-63. And this is from the BC Civil Liberties Union. At the time, back in September, they were raising alarm about sections of this because of the potential impact that this could have if it were to be passed. So, as they write here, legislation to develop online protections for privacy and against harmful online activity has been long awaited. However, legislation tabled by the federal government on February 26, 2024, Bill C-63, isn't hitting the mark. So they go on to explain their issues with it, or first how it breaks down. So there are 4 parts to it. Part 2 and Part 3 is where civil liberties organizations have seen or saw issues with it. So especially Part 2, as they write here, in this case, Part 2 of Bill C-63 may intend to serve a public good by reducing hate speech. Unfortunately, the means chosen by the government will reduce all speech, whether hateful or simply unpopular, including the views of minority groups already facing discrimination. For instance, these new amendments could further suppress pro-Palestinian speech in Canada, Quebec residents speaking out against English-Canadian interference, Indigenous land defenders seeking to exclude colonial powers from their lands, or refugees protesting the actions of their former counties, or former countries. All legitimate perspectives that could be silenced from fear of these proposed and highly punitive laws. So the government, because they're authoritarian communists, put it through anyways, or actually, no, they didn't. Because we live in a democracy, they listened to those fears. They listened to civil liberties organizations, and they ended up splitting the bill. In fact, removing parts 2 and 3, the sections that these organizations took issue with. So they ended up putting parts 1 and 4 together. But we can go on here and recognize that it no longer exists. The bill died following the prorogation of Parliament, as the Liberal Party goes on to pick a new leader and prime minister before the next election. It doesn't exist. Yet Joe Rogan appears to think that this bill, and I guess the worst examples of it, already implemented, people being thrown in prison, can't say what they want to say online. I'm going to be arrested off camera right after this video. It's so incredibly dumb. What's also amazing about all of this is that in his own state, there's actual anti-free speech laws on the books. So this report from back in 2018 from Glenn Greenwald, a Texas elementary school speech pathologist refused to sign a pro-Israel oath, now mandatory in many states, so she lost her job. And as they write here, a major attack on the First Amendment. No credible advocate of free expression can remain silent about this quote-unquote free speech exception for Israel. How can you possibly claim that Canada, you can't say what you want in Canada, when this is in your own state, and not just your state? Many states have anti-boycott laws to punish responsible businesses that want to cut ties with Israeli settlements. This is absolutely insane. Yet, apparently, I can't say what I want in Canada when I am here right now doing that very thing. And this is an issue that the Supreme Court, up to this point, has refused to review. And considering it's a far right-wing Supreme Court, it probably wouldn't matter if they did review it. So it is just absolutely wild that Joe Rogan, with his massive platform, millions of people listening that, you know, have sponges for brains, are just taking in this garbage, are going to believe this crap and spread it to other people. I hope this also begins to maybe wake some Canadians up who maybe they're Rogan listeners, maybe they lean a little more right, and they realize a lot of these people, a lot of these American right-wingers are talking a lot of shit about Canada, don't know what the hell they're talking about. Maybe begin to realize these are not your people. Find a different group, because these people are absolute idiots.